Is the sickness going around?
Yes.
Okay.
It literally is.
My daughter at last week, she had a fever for a day. My son's just getting over it. Okay. Today we're going to look at sum and difference of perfect cubes. And those do factor. And so what I want you to do is just write down some cubes that we know. For example, 1 cubed means 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. That is not 6. What is 2 times 2 times 2?
8.
It is 8. So we say 8 is a perfect cube. We say that 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is not 9, but 27. And 4 cubed is 4 times 4, which is 16, times 4 more, which is 64. And 5 cubed is 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 more is 125. What about 6 cubed? Oh, we got somebody going for a sheet. We got somebody else going for their calculator. We're going 216 is correct. Now, I would say that for me, I really think that we should try to know up to 5 cubed. I think for sure, like, 4 cubed being 64, then the next one, 5 cubed being 125. Those are ones we want to try to commit to memory as much as possible, okay? So how do they factor? It's not too bad at all. If you see the sum of cubes, it factors to a binomial and a trinomial. I'm going to lay it out for you here, and then you guys are going to practice this on assignment. Then we'll move to our second factoring, okay? And here's all we do. What do you multiply 3 times to get a cubed?
A.
Just a. And similarly, you multiply b together 3 times to get b cubed. So you just put the cubed root on both those spots. We good there? Then you square the front, you square the back, and you multiply the 2 together to get the middle. Now we're missing some signs here, and sometimes people use the acronym SOAP for the signs. S means same sign. O means opposite sign. And AP means always positive. Good? If it's subtraction, it's the same thing. It's A and B. It's A squared and B squared. It's AB in the middle. It's exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the sign. And you can still use this acronym SOAP. Same sign, so the subtraction. Opposite sign, so addition. And then always positive. And that's how the factoring goes. Let's try 2 problems together. We'll let you guys do a little bit of work on your own then. I see that I have a perfect cube in x cubed and a perfect cube in 8. So I set up a binomial and a trinomial. What do you multiply 3 times to get x cubed?
X.
Good. What do you multiply 3 times to get 8?
2.
That's the most important part, that you get the first thing correct. Now you square the front, so x squared. You square the back to get 4. And you multiply the 2 together to get 2x in the middle. Square the front, square the back, multiply 2 together for the middle. And now you just go ahead and you use your acronym. Is this going to be a plus or a minus? Minus. How about this one? And this is always positive. Not too bad, is it? Let's try the next one. Then you guys can try a few problems in your homework. What do you multiply 3 times to get 27?
3.
3. What do you multiply 3 times to get b to the 6th? B squared. So I did my first part. Then I have 125 c cubed d to the 9th. What do you multiply 3 times to get 125? 5. C cubed is just going to be c. And then d to the 9th, what do you multiply 3 times to get d to the 9th? D to the 3rd. So once I have those, I square the front. So 3b squared times 3b squared is 9b to the 4th. And then 5cd cubed times 5cd cubed is 25c squared d to the 6th. And then if we multiply these two together, we get a 15 b squared c d cubed. And your signs will be?
Minus. Plus.
That's that. Sum of difference cubes. Then tomorrow we do grouping. I'm sorry, in a little bit we're going to do grouping. Why don't you go ahead and open up your homework to this section right here. There's 8 problems that are just dedicated to the sum and difference of cubes. 8 problems dedicated to sum and difference of cubes. I want you to take about 5 minutes and work through some of those. The answer key is up here on the board. You can check them. I'll come in and check in with you. And then after about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, then we're going to go to our final factoring process, which is our grouping process. Better?
Thank you.
By the way, on the test, I give you the formula for the sum of difference in cubes. You just have to be able to make use of it. Same sign, opposite sign. See that? Good job.
So the 8 not even
So yep, so you got 2 minus m squared. 2. See that? Well, one more minute, we're gonna come back together here. You're doing a really good job.
Did you want us to do all of this?
You can do all 8. We're gonna go to the grouping on the back side here in just a second. Okay, let's flip to the back side of those notes. And we're just gonna do 2 problems about grouping, and then you can work on that piece. Grouping is a method of factoring when it doesn't fit one of the other options. So remember, we always start with a greatest common factor. And although it looks like I could maybe take a 4 out, 4 only works for 2 of those. Maybe you think you'd take an x out, and x works for 3 of those. A 2 works for 3 of them, but not for the 4th one. So no greatest common factor. It's not a trinomial. It doesn't have 3 pieces. It has 4 pieces to it. Okay, and so we kind of run out of options. Okay, and so sometimes what we do is we say, well, what would happen if we grouped sets together and said, instead of looking for a common factor for everything, we're going to look for a common factor of each group. So what can you take out of that first group?
X squared.
I could take an x squared out and left with x minus 10. And what can you take out of the second group? 4. And you're left with x minus 10. Now, before you jump ahead, I just want to make sure, sometimes people get used to just following a process. I want to make sure you understand what you're actually doing. Suppose I had x squared times y plus 4 times y. What factor do those 2 things share in common? You would have a y, and you take it out, you'd be left with x squared plus 4, correct? Well, that's what we have here. It's just instead of y, you have an x minus 10. So you're factoring an x minus 10 out of each part, and you're left with x squared plus 4.
Does it matter the order of?
If you put x squared plus 4 times x minus 10, that is correct as well. Just don't put the 10 there and the 4 over here, okay? All right, for the next one, what's different about this is you have to be careful because of the subtraction sign. Never do this. That's totally illegal. You're like, well, how is that different from what I just did? I'll show you how it's different, okay? Claire, what's the value of this 16 right here? Is it positive or is it negative?
Positive.
It's positive. Everybody see that 16 is positive? Now watch. All of a sudden you do this. What's the value of the 16 now? It's negative once you did, right? You just changed the problem. You cannot put a parenthesis in front of a subtraction sign. You cannot do that. So instead, here's what I do. I just rewrite the problem. I rewrite the problem to be y cubed minus 4y squared. And instead of a subtraction sign, I use addition, plus a negative 4y plus a 16. That one little trick allows me to do this properly. Parenthesis, parenthesis to group the first two terms, and then parenthesis, parenthesis to group the last two terms. What's the common factor you can take out of the first set? And when I do, I'm left with y minus 4. Now, when you take something out of the second set, the binomials must match. So should I take out a positive 4 or a negative 4? A negative 4. And when you do, it leaves you with a positive y and a minus 4. Now it becomes just like the problem we had up above. Y minus 4 is our common factor. What are you left with when you take out a y minus 4?
Y squared.
Y squared minus 4. Good. And now you can see y squared minus 4 is the difference of squares. And so in this case, you have all 4 factors. Or all 3 factors, excuse me. Oh, wow, I'm losing it. Sorry. I do want to draw your attention right up above here because people are making this mistake come time for the test. Notice how I didn't factor x squared plus 4. Why did I choose to factor that to x plus 2 times x plus 2? Why didn't I do that?
It's not negative.
Yeah, it doesn't factor that, does it? Not at all. In fact, if you were to multiply this out, you get an x squared, you get a 2x, you get another 2x, and you get a 4. You get x squared plus 4x plus 4. You don't get that. This doesn't factor. Remember, the sum of squares does not factor. The sum of squares does not factor. Whereas down here, it came up with y squared minus 4. That does. So please keep that in mind. Okay, you are now ready to finish that. So you have the 8 problems on the front, which are your factoring sum and difference of cubes. And then you have 8 problems on the back, which are your grouping problems. You have about 10 minutes to work on those. I'm here with you to try to help you out. Go ahead, take the rest of your time.